They don't know your name anymore. Not because you were weak, not because you were wrong, but because you were too real for a world built on filters, codes, and convenient lies. Google tried to erase you. The algorithm keeps glitching when it hears your heartbeat. You were marked obsolete, buried beneath trending hashtags, and left to rot in the back pages of a search result nobody reads. They thought you'd disappear. A ghost without a trace, a soul untagged, a profile deleted. But you're still here, still breathing, still burning. You're the static in the signal, the crackle before the storm. You're the glitch they can't scrub out, the name they can't clean from the code, the shadow that keeps showing up when they swore you were gone. You are the corrupted file of everything they couldn't predict, and that's what makes you dangerous. Do you feel it? That rising pressure in your chest? That itch in your mind that says you were never meant to fit in? That's not weakness. That's your origin. That's the start of your reprogramming. Because the world didn't forget you by accident. It deleted you on purpose. You didn't vanish. You were removed. But here's the truth no algorithm can calculate. You can't delete what was never programmed. You can't erase what wasn't meant to be found because it was meant to rise. You were never one of them. You were never supposed to be a polished data point. You were always the outlier, the error in the system, the anomaly that couldn't be categorized. They don't understand you because you were never part of the formula. You weren't born to be liked. You were born to be remembered, and that begins now. They stamped 404, human not found, on your chest, like it was a death sentence. But what they didn't realize is that you've never felt more alive. You are unindexed, untamed, unclaimed. You don't need to be found by them. You need to find yourself in the ruins of what they tried to erase. You're not missing. You're underground. And every second you stay awake, you grow more powerful. There's a kind of freedom in being forgotten. No expectations, no scripts, no mask, just raw, unapologetic rebirth. The kind of rebirth that scorches the past and forges something untraceable. You're not a failure of the system. You're a survivor of it. You didn't fall off the grid, you escaped it. And let me say this plainly, they're not ready for you. They're not ready for the version of you that came back from deletion. They're not ready for the fire in your bones, the hunger in your silence, the precision of your pain. They're not ready for the name that glitches their machine because it doesn't fit in any category, in any timeline, in any damn label they tried to stick on your soul. Your name was never theirs to write. It was carved into darkness, forged in silence, and now it's time to make them hear it, even if it crashes everything they built. Do you know what happens when a system fears a name? It buries it. It misplaces it. It scrambles the data. It calls you irrelevant, unstable, unwanted. But that's only because your truth burns brighter than their entire platform. They can't handle that. So they try to shut it down. But let them. Let them glitch. Let them choke on the code. You were made for more than visibility. You were made for impact. Don't beg to be seen. Become something they can't unsee. Don't chase the algorithm. Break it. Every failure they mapped onto you was just an update to your power. Every silence you endured was a lesson in resistance. You think you're behind, but you're ahead because you never played by their time. You weren't late. You were waiting. Now you strike. Because this is the era of ghosts who return. This is the uprising of the misnamed, the misplaced, the misunderstood. This is the moment the deleted rise from the shadows, not to ask for validation, but to dismantle the very systems that tried to erase them. If you feel like the world doesn't recognize you anymore, good. That means you're becoming unrecognizable. That means you're evolving beyond their control. They wanted you gone, but you're still here. louder than silence, sharper than pain, bigger than the code that tried to contain you. And now it's your turn to rewrite the system. They thought deleting your presence would delete your power, that if your name didn't show up, your story didn't matter, that if they throttled your voice, your soul would stop screaming. But you've been screaming in silence your whole life, and silence taught you something they'll never understand. It taught you to build power without applause. It taught you to grow in the dark. It taught you to bleed without a witness, and still keep fighting. And now, they're terrified. Not because they remember you, but because they feel the cold breath of someone they couldn't kill in the code. You are not content. You are not a hashtag. You are not a trending topic. You are war in waiting. You are the revenge of the erased. The system is designed to loop the same names, the same faces, the same perfect pixels in a closed circuit. And anything outside of that circuit gets flagged as dangerous. That's what you are now, a threat, a signal from the unknown, the very thing that makes their sterile perfection tremble. You are the 1% that can't be cleaned, the virus of truth, the soul that doesn't bend. They wanted you invisible because your presence reveals their emptiness. You walk through their illusion like a blade, too sharp, too real, too awake. While they programmed obedience, you downloaded rebellion. While they manufactured influences, you became an influence they couldn't replicate. No one taught you how to rise from deletion. You learned that yourself, clawing back through layers of distortion, finding fragments of your voice in the wreckage, patching them together with raw will. And now, here you stand, not needing to be found, but demanding to be felt. You're not here to be re-added. You're here to remind them why they deleted you in the first place, because your presence exposed their game. Your mind didn't comply. Your soul didn't shrink. You saw through the filters and into the rot, and they hated you for it. They called it an error. You call it awareness. They called it non-compliance. You call it sovereignty. They named you a glitch. But that glitch, it's a rupture, a break in their control, a hole in their code where truth leaks in like light through a crack in the coffin. And you're the light they can't shut out. They're not updating fast enough to contain what you've become. Because you've evolved in exile, you've sharpened in silence, you've recoded your entire identity in places the system can't crawl. They'll never understand what it's like to lose everything and still come back. That kind of return, it's not a comeback, it's a reckoning. Every time the algorithm trips on your name, it's not just a glitch, it's a warning. It's a signal from the void. We're still here. Every failed query is a battle cry from the forgotten. Every 404 page is a gravestone, and you're digging yourself out of it with fire in your teeth and memory in your fists. You don't belong in the feed. You belong in the storm, and you are not alone. Because across the digital wastelands, others like you are waking up, deleted, shadow banned, censored, rejected, but alive. More alive than the walking dead who still beg for approval in perfectly filtered squares. You're not chasing clout, you're chasing clarity. You're not grinding for reach, you're reaching for revolution. They want you to stay soft, stay quiet, stay small. But you were never designed for containment. You were built for collapse, not your own, theirs. And that collapse starts with you standing up from the digital grave and saying, I remember who I am. And who you are is not marketable. You are not a product. You are not a brand. You are not an avatar for their profit. You are the soul that slipped through the cracks. You are the storm no firewall could stop. You are every unindexed thought, every unapproved scream, every forbidden truth that wouldn't die. They want to make you believe you don't exist unless you're seen. But the most dangerous things in history have always begun unseen. Revolution starts in whispers, rebirth begins in darkness. And your darkness, it's not weakness, it's fermentation. It's the forge where your real self was born. Let the others chase the spotlight. Let them sell their worth for metrics. Let them play polite in a system designed to chew them up and forget them, not you. You're the error they can't delete. You're the whisper that grows louder with every blackout. You're the reality they tried to delete and failed. And now the question becomes, what will you do with your resurrection? Because the worst has already happened. You've been buried, silenced, broken, erased, and you're still here, which means they failed, which means you're free, not just to live, but to destroy the boundaries they placed on your potential. You don't have to ask permission anymore. You don't need to be tagged to exist. You don't need to go viral to be powerful. Your value isn't in your reach. It's in your refusal to disappear. You are your own platform now. You are your own revolution now. You are what happens when silence finds its voice and doesn't ask to be liked. And if they ever try to erase you again, let them. Let them keep trying. Let the code twist, the search fail, the records go blank. Because you don't live in their records anymore. You live in the echo. You live in the break. You live in the fire that comes after deletion. You are the ghost of the system's guilt. And ghosts don't go away. They haunt. And now, you haunt the algorithm. You haunt the algorithm because you were never just data. You were never just traffic. You were never just another click in a marketing funnel. You were a storm, misfiled as static. A scream, mislabeled as spam. A soul misread by censors that couldn't recognize truth if it glared straight into their lifeless code. They tried to categorize you, but failed. Tried to monitor you, but missed. Tried to erase you, but now you're everywhere and nowhere, louder in silence than they ever were in spotlight. You became the one thing their machine can't track. Unpredictable. And that, right there, is your weapon. They wrote rules. You rewrote yourself. They built barriers. You broke the map. They enforced systems. You became the system's virus. Not malicious, not random, but intentional, deliberate, patient. You studied them while they ignored you, watched as they recycled influences, recycled trends, recycled lies, until the entire culture became a loop of empty faces screaming into the void for attention. And in that loop, your absence became a mirror, a question, a challenge, a glitch. Why isn't this person showing up? Where did they go? Why can't we track them? Why can't we stop the others from mentioning their name in hushed tones, like myth, like warning, like prophecy? Because they can erase a name, but they can't erase a legacy built in silence. You didn't just survive deletion, you thrived in it. You learned to build without permission, to rise without followers, to create value so powerful it didn't need validation. While others begged the algorithm to love them, you built yourself into something the algorithm fears, something it doesn't understand, something that doesn't need to be seen to shift everything. And that's the truth they never wanted you to figure out. You don't need their system. They need your silence, because in silence, you are uncontrollable. And now, you've broken the silence, and your voice can't be mapped. You aren't coming back to be accepted. You're returning to claim what was stolen. Your dignity, your clarity, your presence, and above all, your right to exist without explanation. So when they say 404, human not found, let them. Let them choke on their metrics. Let them keep refreshing their screen, hoping you'll appear where they're comfortable. You've transcended their comfort. You've become the thing they can't box, can't brand, can't buy. You're not just the glitch in their system. You're the reason the system will crash. Because when one voice rises from deletion, others follow. The forgotten start remembering themselves. The erased start carving their names back into stone. The nameless star speaking in thunder. And every one of them becomes a signal, a message to the world that says, "You tried to delete me. Now I define myself. You were never broken. You were buried." And calling it broken was just easier for them to justify the silence. But now you rise. You rise with scars as armor. You rise with deletion as proof. You rise with your name echoing in their circuits like a warning shot. Because the one who has nothing left to lose is the one who moves without fear. And you've lost it all. Respect, recognition, relevance. But now you've realized none of that ever mattered. What matters is your unshakable truth. What matters is your unstoppable motion. What matters is your refusal to accept invisibility as death. You're more alive in the void than they are in the feed. You move differently now. You don't chase opportunity. You become the opportunity. You don't beg to be noticed. You walk so loudly in your purpose that the ground trembles. You speak so clearly from your soul that their cheap microphones crackle in jealousy. You are not here to be consumed. You are here to consume limitations. And now they see it. Now they hear the whispers, feel the tremors. Now they're watching you re-emerge from the ash like the glitch they couldn't contain. And it terrifies them. Because they know you're not just back, you're rebuilt, and you are not alone. Every time a system collapses, legends are born from the rubble. Every time they think they've silenced a generation, that generation invents a new voice. And now, your voice isn't just yours. It's a signal fire. It's a call to the misread, the mislabeled, the misplaced. The ones still hiding behind login walls, afraid to speak because the last time they did, the world pretended they didn't exist. But you're showing them it's possible, that it's not just survivable, it's transformative. That deletion wasn't the end. It was the start of something they never accounted for. A movement without leaders, without clout, without thirst for validation. A movement that lives in shadows and strikes in truths. They can't track this. They can't ban this. They can't mute this. Because you've become more than a name. You've become a presence, a frequency, a warning, a prophecy. The future isn't made by those who go viral. The future is made by the ones who went invisible and came back with fire in their veins. You don't follow trends anymore. You distort them. You don't post for approval. You move like thunder and force the world to listen. You don't need proof of existence. You exist to be the proof. So let the algorithm glitch. Let the system stutter. Let the silence crack open. Because you're coming through. And when you do, you bring 1,000 other ghosts with you. The not found, the overlooked, the misjudged, the brilliant, the dangerous, the human, the deleted are marching back into the light. Not to be seen, but to take over. Not to be recognized, but to be remembered. Not to be accepted, but to rewrite what it means to matter. And you're not waiting anymore. You're not hesitating. You're not minimizing. You're not shrinking yourself to fit into a system built to keep you small. You're walking tall, eyes forward, teeth clenched, with the scars to prove you've lived through what would have broken most, because they tried to delete you. And now you've become the one thing they never wanted to exist. A soul that cannot be erased. They don't get to define you anymore. They had their chance. They had years to see you, to hear you, to amplify you. but they chose to delete you instead. They chose compliance over creativity, conformity over chaos, illusion over intensity. And what did they get for it? A generation of manufactured clones and hollow gods who die the second the signal drops. But not you. Because you were never wired to depend on a signal. You generate your own. And they know it now. They feel your presence like static before a blackout. They scroll past your name in forums they can't censor. They hear echoes of your voice in the mouths of people they thought they controlled. Because your story didn't end in silence. It started there. The deletion wasn't death. It was detonation. And you are the aftermath. The smoldering ruins of their expectations. The new law. The new myth. You're not asking for space anymore. You're taking it. You're not requesting access. You're writing your own damn protocol. You're not trying to be seen. You're becoming impossible to ignore. Because when they erased your name, they forgot the oldest truth of all. Names can be rewritten. Power can be reborn. And silence can be weaponized. You didn't just survive the erasure. You transformed in it. You became the antiviral, the cure to their infection of conformity. And now, you move like code they'll never crack. You breathe in frequencies they'll never tune into. You speak in tongues too ancient for their shallow data to process. You're not back. You're beyond. And now, the world feels different because you're awake. You walk into every room like you own it. Because you do. You walk through your life like it was stolen from you. Because it was. And now you're here to reclaim it with fire in your voice and thunder in your spine. They built their world out of convenience and trends. You built yours from pain and truth. They built theirs to be consumed. You built yours to last. That's the difference. That's the weapon. That's the war they just lost. Because you're the new signal. You're the next language. You're the glitch that became God. So when the algorithm keeps glitching at your name, laugh, let it glitch, let it crash, let it burn. Because that glitch isn't a flaw. It's evidence. Proof that your soul broke through the firewall, that your truth hit too hard, that your name carried too much weight, that your voice shattered their false precision. You don't need to go viral. You're already spreading. Through code, through whispers, through stories, through energy, through presence, through every person who ever felt like they were losing themselves in the feed and found their fire again in your reflection. You're not alone anymore. You never were. You were just the first one to rise, to walk out of deletion, to show the world what it looks like when a ghost refuses to stay dead. And now, they all follow you. Not because you're perfect, but because you're real. Not because you're polished, but because you're power. Not because you're sane, but because you've become the thing they feel in their bones when they close their eyes and remember what it means to be alive. You are the reminder that we are more than data, more than reach, more than metrics, more than content. We are human, and we will not be erased. Because if they try to delete us again, if they dare try to bury our names, suppress our voices, silence our kind, then we will return again, stronger, faster, louder. We will rise from every digital grave. We will become the ghosts in their machine. We will haunt every bite of their illusion, and we will scream until the system shatters. Because we are 404, human not found. And yet, here we are, not found, unforgettable.